Hello, I'm Rahul, and my partner is Milad. Today we're exploring modern web security from HTTPS to quantum-resistant cryptography. We'll cover three parts: current standards like TLS 1.3 and perfect forward secrecy, then future proofing through certificate transparency and quantum-resistant crypto, and finally critical analysis of strengths, limitations, and where things are heading. First, HTTPS basics. You see this every time you browse. That S in HTTPS means security. It's regular HTTP plus a security layer called TLS. Think of it like mail. HTTPS is a postcard anyone can read, and HTTPS is a sealed envelope. Only you and the recipient can see what's inside. So why do we need HTTPS? HTTPS solves four problems: confidentiality, such as encrypting passwords, so eavesdroppers can read them; integrity, like detecting tampering; authentication, which proves you're talking to the real website via certificates; and compliance, which GDPR requires. Without it, browsers can warn. What is TLS? TLS is the protocol that makes HTTPS work. Version 1.2 had problems such as attacks like Heartbleed, too many weak options, and slow handshakes. TLS 1.3 in 2018 was a complete redesign, and that's our focus. When you visit a secure site, there's a handshake to set up encryption. Your browser says, hello, here are my encryption options and my key. The website responds, great, here's my key and uh, and certificate proving I'm legit. Both sides compute the same shared key, same shared secret using math, then encrypt everything with it. That's one round trip, and TLS 1.2 needed two, so this is twice as fast. There were three improvements in TLS 1.3: speed with 50% faster handshakes, security with removal of weak algorithms and only 5 strong cipher suits, and simplicity where less negotiation means fewer attack opportunities. Now, perfect forward secrecy, which is one of the most important features. Imagine this. An attacker records all your encrypted data, encrypted traffic today, and stores it for years. 10 years later, they hack the website and steal its private key. Can they decrypt that old traffic? Without PFS, yes, because everything's exposed. With PFS, which TLS 1.3 requires, no. Old traffic stays secret even if keys are compromised later. That's protecting the past from future compromise. Here's how PFS works. For every connection, both sides generate fresh temporary key pairs. They exchange public keys, compute the same shared secret using elliptic curve Diffie-Hellman, then immediately destroy those temporary private keys forever. Even if an attacker later steals the website's long-term key, they can't recreate those destroyed temporary keys. Each session's data remains secret. An analogy to think of for PFS is burner phones. Each conversation uses a different phone, then destroys it. If someone finds your main phone later, past calls are gone. TLS 1.3 makes this mandatory. The next problem is, how do you know you're talking to the real website? The solution is digital certificates, like a driver's license for websites. Certificate authorities like DigiCert and Let's Encrypt issue these after verifying identity. Your browser trusts about 100 CAs, and during the handshake, the website shows its certificate, and the browser checks if this is signed by a CA I trust. If yes, you padlock. If not, warning. But here's the problem. If any one of these 100 CAs gets compromised, attackers issue fake certificates. This happened to DigiNotar in 2011 and Symantec in 2015. The browser would trust the fake and show the padlock, and therefore we need additional protection.
Hi, my name's Milad. Continuing on, as Rahul mentioned, we need additional protection, and this is done in the forms of either certificate pinning or certificate transparency. So certificate pinning is the legacy approach, which has hard-coded certificates in apps and clients, and the goal is to only trust specific certificates and not all CAs. But the issue is that if certificates rotate, this can lead to denial of service, and this is actually deprecated in browsers and has limited use in mobile apps. Certificate transparency is the modern approach, and it's actually the preferred solution. It has public append-only logs, and it wants to just monitor all these certificates that have been issued. It doesn't actually block anything, it just creates accountability, and it's mandatory in Chrome and Safari and it's required for public CAs. So how it actually works is if a CA wants to issue a certificate for a domain, they have to submit it to multiple CT logs, which are run by large corporations, and then the CT logs will add their certificate to the log, and then return proof, which is the SCT. And so the website will present the SCT during the TLS handshake, and if it's valid, the connection will be established. If not, the browser will send a warning or block the connection. And the good thing is anyone can monitor these logs to make sure no one's issuing unauthorized CTs, and researchers are able to detect patterns of abuse. So these logs are actually a Merkle tree structure, which allows for tamper-proof logging. It's kind of like a tournament bracket where each certificate is a player at the bottom, and you create hashes and pairs, and you hash upwards towards a root hash. And so this is append only. You can't edit or delete old certificates. It's easy to verify if a certificate is in the log very quickly. And since we're hashing, any changes to any changes to existing certificates will be very obvious in the root hash since it'll change. So this makes the CT logs auditable and easy to monitor. The next issue is the quantum computing threat. Quantum computers are able to solve certain problems very quickly, and this breaks current public key encryption, which is based on hard math problems like factoring large numbers. Quantum computers can solve these problems very quickly, which will break RSA encryption, elliptic curve cryptography, all modern classical algorithms. Um, this is actually a threat 10, 15, 20 years down the line when quantum computers become bigger and more reliable for actually doing calculations. Because attackers can do harvest now, decrypt later attacks, which is where they will collect a bunch of data now, sensitive information, but they can't see it yet. But once quantum computers become available, they will use them to decrypt the data, which can be classified information, medical records, or financial information and trade secrets. The solution to this is hybrid post-quantum cryptography using both classical and quantum algorithms. These are based on the quantum algorithms are based on lattice problems, which are very hard for quantum computers to solve. And so the hybrid approach is the combination of both a classical key and a post-quantum key. You do a handshake, exchange both keys, and then combine them together to create the shared secret, which is your hybrid key. This remains secure if either algorithm remains secure. So if one fails, the other algorithm will cover for it. How this actually works in practice is the client will generate two key shares, a classical and a post-quantum. We'll send it to the server. The server will respond with two shared secrets, a classical and a quantum, and then both sides will combine their secrets to create the hybrid key. And this is actually in deployment right now in Google Chrome, Cloudflare, AWS, etc. So some strengths of these modern approaches is that mandatory forward secrecy protects your past sessions. TLS 1.3 is faster, and the protocols are simplified, meaning there's just a smaller attack surface. Certificate transparency replaces pinning, which is fragile, and it creates accountability for CAs. And hybrid post-quantum cryptography takes immediate action, protecting your data against harvest now, decrypt later, and it remains safe as long as either algorithm holds. The limitations, however, for these measures that we've taken are that post-quantum keys are significantly larger, adding overhead to the TLS handshake, which can cause latency on networks that are slow. And certificate transparency is not a preventative action, it's reactive. So you have to constantly monitor, and there are privacy concerns since all certifications are public. And some general challenges is it might be hard for legacy devices to implement these modern requirements. And there's implementation bugs still being discovered in TLS libraries. And certificate management is still operationally complex. So for the future short term, we want to fully adopt hybrid post-quantum development across major sites. In the medium term, we want to transition from hybrid to pure post-quantum. Once the robustness and security of these algorithms is proven, we can get rid of the classical component and just rely on the quantum post-quantum component. And in the long term, we possibly will see TLS 1.4 or maybe a next generation protocol, as well as with hardware acceleration for post-quantum operations, which will compensate for the larger overhead of the increased size of the keys. So in conclusion, HTTPS and PFS are the baseline for web security. Certificate of transparency has replaced pinning for public trust. It creates accountability. Hybrid post-quantum cryptography is the bridge to the quantum area. It's being deployed now to protect your data for the future. And web security infrastructure continues to evolve. Algorithms are becoming more advanced, more secure, keeping your data safe and protecting billions of connections every single day. Thank you for your attention. If there's any questions, please feel free to ask.